to the June 25th, 2018 Ahrb meeting. First item on tonight's agenda is 49 Clinton Avenue Master School. No one here. Revisit that item at the end.
Someone's raising their hand.
Yes.
Hi, I'm here to talk about, I'm not representing this school, I'm representing myself because I got a certified letter. So I would like to make a few comments. I don't know why they're not here.
We're going to give them a chance to show up so that we can hear what they have to say, hear what we have to say all together. I think that's fair.
Okay.
And if they don't show, we'll listen to your comments tonight, and we'll take that into consideration if you can't make it to the next meeting when they do come. Next item on the agenda, 3 Eldridge Place. Could you come up to the mic, state your name, address?
Hi, my name is Lashkens.
Would you like to describe what you're doing? Describe your project for us, if we have any questions, we'll ask them directly.
We're installing a new siding over existing siding. This is it's an 8-inch, 9-inch actually, vinyl siding and wood siding.
And why are you covering a better material with a lesser material? So why not repair the wood siding?
We think that actually vinyl is better than wood because that's an old siding and the paint is peeling off and restoring it would be probably, installing new siding would be probably an ideal rather than restoring the existing.
Can you repeat that? Restoring would be what?
Installing new siding, it probably would be better than restoring an old siding. Put in insulation also on top, half an inch insulation underneath.
Excuse me, are you the, what is your role in this project? Are you the owner or
I'm
the?
the owner.
Besides painting that I see in the picture, do you have rotten boards or is the existing siding in bad shape that you say restoring?
I do have pictures, color pictures, if I can see.
That is the existing siding, right?
Yes, it is.
This is existing.
Right, and then I guess this portion is what we know.
This plastic, sand.
Do you have a copy of the one that you're gonna, you have a sample of the one that,
The new one?
the new
Yeah.
one?
Yes. So this will be the corner, this is the double siding that goes around, that's the J channel, goes in the corner, so basically that's the look of it. As far as the color, it's pretty much in the same family or what the existing is.
Yeah, it looks like this.
This looks like wood, but
That's
this looks
wood.
like composition shingles, so it doesn't look like it's the same.
It's got two different, there is
Two
the
different siding.
pine and the cedar.
Oh, so it is.
So one of the side is cedar, the other side is the pine. It's,
Could you take the microphone with you if you're, you want?
yes.
We haven't really, you haven't given us enough photo information to really assess the house as a whole, but, I mean, generally, we direct people towards, or sort of away from vinyl siding, particularly when you have an existing house and it's clad in wood. The board's preference is for you to repair it rather than cover it up. If there's some pressing logistical or construction-related issue to repairing that, you know, we take into consideration. But I also will say that on the spectrum of vinyl siding, that's not a good one, and so there's no way that that's a better. I mean, the wood siding is a you know, much better material, and I would suggest that you look more closely into repairing the siding rather than covering it up with this. You know, really, I think it's a subpar quality material. Not all vinyl siding is, but that one leaves quite a bit to be desired. So, I'd like to hear what the rest of the board thinks.
What's the width of the wall? That the existing wall is 6 inches, exterior wall? Do you know the?
The thickness of the wall?
Yes.
It's a standard, I think, 6 inches.
Would you be amenable to change the quality of the vinyl siding to the better grade?
Probably there's better grade out there. I consider the budget and everything else, this is the one that I picked. It's a standard siding.
No, we know what it is, but there are like better grades of vinyl siding. We have approved vinyl siding in the past, but this one it's sad to see like the material that you have now that is much better of the material that you're replacing it with. So,
Could I remind the board that most of the times that you have approved vinyl siding, it's been in combination with hardy plank or something like that as the trim and corner boards to make it look more authentic.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are, sometimes we get, this is an issue with a new house, or a house where there's an addition that is very large relative to what's there, or, and in this case, it's just recladding what's, it's hard to justify, you know. I think you're going the wrong direction. I think you're making a mistake here.
What I do want to point out is that even if you look at resales, typically wood siding has much more value than vinyl, so you're really lessening the value of your house by putting vinyl on. You might just want to check, you know, you can talk to a couple of real estate people, they'll tell you the same thing.
I did check, I did all the researches, with all respect, I totally understand, and I'm sure there's different categories of the siding, which, you know, it runs in price in different, and one of the reasons why I picked this, because it's pretty much within the same family as far as the color, what I had in existence. The texture, it's the same. This has a cedar texture. The siding that I have is cedar. The existing siding, it's not in the shape, I don't think it's in the shape where I can recondition it unless I replace it entirely. That would be completely something else. The house next to me has a vinyl siding, which is an older vinyl siding. I just thought that this is more modern than what it is right now, rather than recondition what I have existing. As far as the post on the side, it's exactly the same what I have right now. It's flat, 3.5-inch corners wide, that's exactly the same thing. I didn't want to change the look of it. That was another thing. However, this is double flat, where the other one is only one single panel. That was the whole idea, trying to keep it as close as possible to the original look.
So you're gonna cover the existing siding with the vinyl?
Yes.
You'll have to build out the window jambs then?
When we're doing the windows, we capping the windows with aluminum. That's what they are. If we remove it out, we just put a new capping. So is the soffit all around.
So is there gonna be, because on your existing windows, you know, you have trim, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be covered. It's gonna be covered. Not every window is the same. As you can see, there are different windows. Those are the existing windows, so basically some of the
When you s-
windows are capped.
So what would
When you-
happen is that
when
you'd
you-
have to build out the casing, you
No,
know?
no, this is capping, it's not casing, it's even cheaper.
Yeah,
Cheaper
Yeah.
looker, sorry.
So the casing is gonna be covered with the siding, right?
No,
Unless
the
he
ca-
builds it out.
No, the casing is gonna be capped with aluminum.
yeah.
It's gonna be even,
But if he puts the half-inch insulation over the existing siding, then he
Yeah.
puts the vinyl,
Yeah, so
Then
then,
he
so
has
the
to
wall
build it
section
out.
is,
Yeah.
so like existing, he's gonna put this. And then he's gonna put the new material, right, and then so the old one is, you know, this is the old window. He's gonna come out and do something
so he
like
has to
that,
build
some
it out. He
aluminum,
has to build out the jam on
yeah,
it. That's what I'm
some
saying.
aluminum
So
piece.
is there, so my question is that, is there
Like
gonna
that
be
piece.
casing on it? Because
It's
the
not
existing
jam,
ones
it's
have
the
casing
window.
on there.
It's
so-
the window trim, not the jam. Jam stays as is. The
No,
cap
this
is
is
soft, whole
capping
window
the
comes out.
You
around
have to
it.
do the jam, because otherwise you're it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
It-
that's-
The point is only
it's
that
just a
it's a,
detail.
that I think it's a very bad idea. I think the details are gonna, just sort of cheapen the look of the house entirely.
May I ask a question? Have you had a painter come and look and see how bad
Yes,
the
I
condition of the wood, the siding is, existing siding? Is it gonna be, is it going to have to be completely replaced? Are there just
Patches.
occasional pieces of wood that are gonna have to be replaced? Or is it,
Some pieces of wood will need to be replaced. Some of them are damaged where they have to be filled with a bundle or whatever the filling is. It will be probably 3 times more as far as the label and all the cost. And being that it's not a same siding all around, there's 2 different sides of the house.
Yeah.
We figured if we covered with all that, it will be all uniform, all in one, and it'll match all throughout, rather than have different parts on each side.
I tend to think that
Yeah, there's no
a higher
indication.
quality material, even if there is some discordance, is highly preferable. That's just me.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing in the photos that indicate that the siding needs to be replaced.
Just-
This is the worst one, and it looks more like,
That looks like plywood, right?
yeah,
See-
it looks
Yeah.
more like paint than replacement, but I mean, I can't, there's no way to.
Maybe a site visit?
yes.
Yes.
Actually, I will ask you to do this, since when you site the house, there is 2 components, labor and materials, right? The labor is the same, so I will be curious to see if it's a better grade of the siding that you're proposing, what's the differential in price? Because this is the cheapest it can get, close to. So a better grade will do a better job in not only of, that will look better, your house will be better, but also will give you better even insulation. So I'm not that, for the insulation value that you gain of cladding the house, it might be worth the effort to reclad it. The second thing that I will ask is to have a detail of the window, how you propose to clad the windows, because if you clad it with aluminum, how that detail will look like, because it might be very cheap looking. Depends on who's your contractor, who's doing the work around, the trim work around the windows. It might not look right. If you cap it with aluminum, it's not what you want to do around what you have now. What you have now looks much better than what you're proposing to do, even with the, let's say, damaged or compromised siding that you have now. And those are the two things that I will look into. And I'll drive by and look at the condition of the wood, because a good painter could do a very good job if the material is in good place. I doubted that it will be much more expensive than residing the entire house, but I would like to check those assumptions.
I understand that, but the capping is, all the windows are different.
Correct.
I have bay window, I have double hung window, I have one panel window, so some of the windows do have the trim around 3.5 inch.
Correct.
Some don't, so the idea of capping all around with 3.5 inch was to make it uniform, and this is the all.
Yeah, but
around.
you can do like, you can make the trim out of material like AZAC or trim material rather than aluminum capping. Aluminum capping is not, it's not gonna, you're not gonna be happy when you see the result. I believe so.
I would like to also do a site visit and just take a look at the house next door and the other houses around it.
Yeah, I would like, to see the context of the other houses, and because you don't want to drag the entire neighborhood to a lower in value look.
Okay, question, when you say better siding, what are you referring to? As far as the look?
There is the same vinyl siding, they're grades, they're better grades. Today, I think they're manufacturing good-looking aluminum siding that you have to be close and touch it until you see it that it's not real. That might be very expensive, or the, what's the other,
Well, Hardy
the
makes
Hardy
version
boards.
of PVC.
Hardy, it's like Hardy planks, Hardy board, they're very good materials that you might look at it. Remember, labor and materials, you're only increasing the cost of the materials because the labor will be the same. So I think it's worth considering the costs involved in changing the material for a better grade material and better detailing of the, and see what the result is. I think you'll be, the way that you're looking, I'm not convinced that it's the right way.
Well, before I decided this, I looked around. Two of the houses, one to the left, one to the right, they won't look as good as this. They're completely old, original look from the time, which they have exactly the same siding. The one below me has exactly the same siding. I actually copied what's down the road, and I looked at it. And that was the whole idea, to copy the design of the capping and the double siding, and that's why I decided to have this.
No,
So
that's
this was one of the
that's
things
why
I saw
that's
around.
why Dale and I suggest that to go there, to go to visit the site, see the house that you're referring to, and how is the context. Maybe it's appropriate, but nonetheless, I will require you to look at again at the detailing of the windows, because what you have in mind doesn't sound like appealing to me. Oh, the way you're describing it, I will look into like a very simple detail on how you're planning on doing the window trims. Okay?
And when would that take place?
You'll be on the next agenda, which is in 2 weeks from now. In between that, the board will take a look at your property, and you'll draw up a detail for the capping.
Okay. I could also take a picture, because I have one of the windows, I did cap it just to see how it would look like. I knew I would have wrote the picture, but anyways, I decided to provide.
You don't mind if we walk around the house
I would
on the
love-
weekend?
I would be glad to have you
Yeah,
walk
perfect.
around.
Thank you.
Absolutely fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to continue this to the next hearing.
Second.
Second. 98 Wilmington Park Avenue.
My name is Steve Gifford. And I'm proposing to have a portable chicken coop on my property. Made of all wood, no iron.
So before the start of this meeting, spoke to the building inspector, and this is, chicken is a permitted animal in the zoning. There is there's a little bit in the code regarding accessory buildings for noise and odor. And so if there are any neighbors here today, and we can hear from them, and we can sort of see how that, sort of plays into how sensible this is for the neighbor. I mean, I think just, I don't know, any of us have an issue aesthetically, but.
I do live on a dead end, and where it would be kept, I own a building lot next to that, and next to that, there's all dedicated parkland from way up on Beacon Hill, so it goes back like almost a half a mile of woods all around there. There are a couple neighbors somewhat near that, but by and large, it's very isolated.
Okay. Yeah, would you like to come up? Just come up, take the mic, state your name.
Hi. My name is Smith Abraham, so we received your certified letter, thank you. We live, up the hill. We live up the hill from Mohegan Park. So I can sort of see your house from my kitchen window.
What
and I
address?
just-
What address, please?
4 Castle Hill Close. We're in a cul-de-sac off Beacon Hill. So I guess I just had questions to understand what the chicken coop is, like how many chickens, is there gonna be a rooster? I don't know I don't know anything about chicken coops, like, at all. Okay, so I'm here to learn also. Is there gonna be an odor issue for us, like wafting upwards? I guess we have some concerns about our other animals, like raccoons. Recently, we've heard a lot about coyotes. Are they gonna be attracted to that area now? And then, I think this is less of an issue for me, because we're not gonna be handling the chickens, but are there any disease issues, increased risk of asthma issues, spore issues, species issues, those types of things? So I'd like to know a little bit more about what's happening, and to make sure that the risk to the neighbors is very minimal. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, those are all very pertinent questions, some of which had occurred to me, some of which hadn't. Thank you. If you're able to embellish a little bit on the number of chickens and
We're planning on having anywhere from 4 to 6 chickens, no roosters, they're not permitted as per the code. The odor, this is the first time I'm doing it, I've done a lot of research on it, doesn't seem to be an issue as long as you do some housekeeping. It's probably, just to guesstimate, maybe a couple hundred feet from our property. I believe there are a number of other ones in Dobbs Ferry and Hastings around like that, and I haven't heard issues, that stuff being a problem.
So the village code, has not seen fit to think that there are issues like that which would have sent this type of thing to planning. And many other villages don't have any requirements like that either. Odor would be a problem if it wasn't maintained, and from any complaint from the neighbor, the building department would go out and issue a violation. So without the rooster, I think the noise issue is off the table also. So I think it's aesthetics and placement that are at issue right now.
You say it's on wheels, right? So the
Yes.
placement varies.
Excuse me?
The placement varies, you
Yes,
move it around.
Yeah, and the reason to do that is to give them a fresh area to graze.
How do you protect them from predators? You just have a fence?
It's all caged in.
Okay.
I feel like I've gotten satisfactory answers to a lot of your questions, but do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think we're just gonna have to see how it
I think the biggest issue is the odor issue, and then I think if for some reason or another, maintenance isn't as what you expect and, you know, what you're hoping, then, you know, communicating to the building department and getting that resolved, I think is the right course, but, it sounds to me like without the rooster noise, isn't gonna be any of an issue for you, which kind of would be the big one. And the distance really should ameliorate any
Yeah, I
sort
would
of
hope
odor.
so, I just wanted to make sure. I mean, if there are other chicken coops in Dobbs Ferry, has anyone noted any problem of
I actually,
increased animals coming in?
my neighbor has it, it's within 50 feet of my house, and they are hens and not chickens. They have about 4 or 5 hens.
Okay,
They get loud in the morning, but fortunately, my husband and I are both morning people, so it doesn't bother us. There is no kind of odor that I have ever noticed, and we've lived there for about 8 years now, and the hens have been there for 8 years. Only once did I see a coyote, but I think that coyote has been roaming the area. It's just not necessarily the hens that attracted it,
okay.
and I don't see any other problem. They do maintain, you know, everything really nicely. It's always clean. There's never been any issues. The noise has been an issue, but as I said, it doesn't bother us. We've gotten used to it. And I live right on 1 Main Street, so if you go on Palisade, you'd see they have a little coop built under a tree house. It's actually pretty nice.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Okay, to approve this as submitted, second?
I'll second.
Seconds, unanimous, okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
For Florence Avenue.
We're proposing deck additions and small additions to 4 floors. It's an existing 2-family house owned by, co-owned by a brother and sister. So the brother's on the first floor, this family, the sister is on the second floor. The only change to the first floor apartment is on the deck. Neither apartment, they have an oversized lot, 10,000 square foot lot, and 5,000 square foot zone. So neither apartment has really nice or even practical access to the yard. Previously, there was a pool and deck and patio on the property, that's been removed. So the idea is to really just create that relationship between the 2 apartments and the yard. And to do the second floor apartment, some additional space.
What did you go to the planning board for?
Planning board,
Size of the addition.
yeah, because we're doing the addition, even with the deck, we need to go to the planning board. We're still before the planning board.
Okay.
Our hope was to get a waiver, but that did not happen.
Any addition of 10 feet, either horizontally or vertically, requires planning.
Even though it's conforming?
Correct.
Okay.
We also did go to the zoning board. The additions are all conforming, but there's an existing.
Rear setback for
There's
the
an
deck.
existing deficient rear yard setback. And there's a existing one-story area that only has habitable space in the first floor. And so we're proposing to remove a low roof on that one-story space. We'll provide an additional space to the second floor that is conforming, that meets the zoning setback, but we are putting a roof deck on the remaining part. And even though we haven't increased the amount of zoning dimensionally,
So the proposed open roof deck is over the existing non-conformity?
Correct.
Got it.
That's in the required rear yard setback. And that variance
So what you're adding there is the railing.
So what you will see within the setback is the roof deck and railing as opposed to a low pitch roof.
But that new addition on the back is conforming to the rear yard setback?
Correct. So the part, the second floor addition, that is the closet and
Yeah.
laundry area, and the covered part, the open covered deck, that's the line, that part is all conforming to the rear yard setback.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the brick portion of the house is all existing?
Yes,
You have photographs?
yes. This is the front of the house. It's a combination of brick and vinyl. So the main body of the house, both first and second floor, is the brick. The gables, as you can see, are vinyl. This was a previously done addition, which is vinyl. Even on the rear. Here's the low pitch roof that we'll be removing, so that
Becomes,
whole part of the shed is vinyl.
but that's what becomes the
So
roof,
yes, this is what becomes,
the
part
roof
of this
deck.
becomes the addition, and then part of that becomes the roof. So this roof will be. And there's also a small addition which is completely compliant because they have a very, very generous side yard on the other side. And the first floor deck on the other side of the house. You can see where this is, we're standing in the corner of the yard on the back of the house. So they have over a 50-foot side yard. Existing. So there'll be a first floor deck in the side yard and stairs, one of the decks, from the second floor. They have two dogs, get the dogs to and from, without having to go down through the front door, down into the front, and then come back over around. This is the extent of the addition sitting on top of the existing one-story space with the roof deck. Everything else on this elevation from the existing. And from the front, what you see from Florence, the main body of the house is all, actually here, that's a little easier. This is all existing, except that right now, this roof, which does exist, just comes straight down along the edge of the house. So this little section from the edge of the house into the side yard, this is an addition to make this section. Right now, when you walk into a very, very small vestibule, and there's two doors. One straight ahead to the first floor, and one to the left to go up, and it's very often, get furniture up, it's very neat. So this gives them some space where they can actually come in and enter, and give them the ability to move over there, upstairs. And it actually improves the appearance, if we go back to the first, right, the house is very, very vertical. And extending this line out, and seeing that going past the edge of the house gives it a little more horizontality. I don't know about that, but.
Couple of small issues. The point out, I think that, just starting with the front, you know, when we look at, particularly looking at the photos, or that's a good image, that's a good drawing to stop on. The brick reads really well. The vinyl, actually the combination is kind of interesting in a way. But at no point along the base of the house is there any vinyl. And so I wonder if, you know, just looking at this compositionally, you would look at that new vestibule that you're building at the entry as a brick vestibule to continue that brick all the way around and keep the vinyl to a sort of these discrete volumes that are up above the ground. I can't tell if are you replacing the front door, or is that the existing front door?
No, that's the existing door, and in that recess is,
The other door.
but, you know, unfortunately, I do agree, I would love to do it. This was a bit of a battle to get them to even, get them to go this way. They were looking at trying to even make it tighter and smaller, and, so, I'm afraid that the brick is really going to close it out.
You go through some of the other, along the east elevation, there seem to be two doors right next to each other. Yeah, well, it's a bit confusing. One's existing, one's new.
Exactly. This door here is existing, which is their only access out to the side yard from within the building. What that door is that door is actually in the basement staircase. So it's really not very pleasant or functional.
So the door to the right is a basement door that both units have access to from outside.
Correct. When you go in that door, you're on a landing. To the right, you can go down to the basement, and there's a door ahead of you, a couple steps up.
Yeah, I see that in the plan.
Yeah, to get into the first floor unit. So.
And then the new door is access from the kitchen to the deck.
Exactly. And that was one of the, you know, again, their initial concept was that they were going to use that door to get access to the deck, and we kind of tried to fight with them to say that's, that is, could be so much nicer to be able to go from the kitchen out onto the deck, and to be able to appreciate the deck and the relationship between the interior spaces and the exterior spaces, as opposed to feeling like you're going into the basement and to get out onto the deck.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just find the composition to be leave something to be desired. And
from a visual standpoint, from the standpoint of that elevation, because of the railing, what you're actually seeing is effectively what's there. It's a little dark.
yeah,
But that's, there's a window in that location in the kitchen. So again, working with trying to keep costs down and maintaining, using the existing masonry openings. So it's really effectively, it's gonna look very similar to what it is now. I mean, obviously with the deck in place, and where the deck steps down and having the door coming out on each level. But from a practical standpoint, eliminating one, this door doesn't really make sense because the second floor apartment can also be in there. But limiting the first floor to get out into their deck.
yeah. Maybe it just needs to get pulled in line, stylistically to the other doors. I don't know. I think that's two issues so far to look at, and then the last issue. And I understand the reason behind this is a program is driving a little bit of this, but the new addition on the second floor at the back, the lack of windows is also strange. And I know it's a closet, laundry, and things like that, but it's really kind of funny, again, compositionally. And I understand why, you know, you don't necessarily need a window in the laundry room. In fact, you probably want some shelves or something there. And
Right.
same thing with the closet, you know, you wanna maximize storage, but I don't know that, you know,
Yeah.
here, efficiency of interior use is secondary to, hierarchically to, a holistic facade. And, you know, and a well-balanced one, and I think that the lack of any openings on that new addition, you know,
Yeah,
it's tough.
we played around with a lot of different, because we were resistant to even, you know, as I'm sure you can see from the plan, it was a little odd to have the laundry only accessible to the bedroom. And, given the constraints of what the house is, and, you know, the homeowner was planning to do a lot of this work himself. So basically, you know, even certain roof lines that we would suggest and things, it's not.
I understand, sometimes there are modest renovations, and sometimes there are not, and this one is to try to, and I get that, and I'm not asking you to work far outside the constraints of what the program and the budget allow, these are some issues that are real, you know, real issues that I think have to be looked at.
Can I make one suggestion, Bradley? If you were to flip, going to what Michael's talking about, if you were to flip, you know, the closet and the laundry inside, then the bedroom would have a beautiful glass door opening out to the roof deck.
We.
I can't imagine that that's so much more money than what they're building.
We, you know, we tried, we lobbied for ourselves, that yes, the bedroom should be out here, you know, get the laundry in adjacent to the bathroom, but it requires, more renovation to the downstairs unit, and this was clean and simple. I mean, we said taking, you know, Patty said, I'll come and take that wall down, you know, because.
I'll come and take that wall down.
I said, I'll come and take it down if it's too expensive for, you know.
I think that you should see, you know, it can't be that much, yeah, take a look at it.
We
yeah.
did, we did, and they're, you know, they really, I mean, a window along this, on this side facing Bellevue, is certainly viable. without-
Percentage-wise, for what they're gonna spend on what they're doing, I cannot believe that would be add more than that, like even 5%.
I'm happy to lobby for it again
Please.
on your behest and say, that's what.
It's
they
just a
said."
shame.
See, they said it too. So, because yes, I mean, we felt the same thing, that obviously in here.
And look at what they would be
having the laundry
getting
in
with
here
that.
Is a much more practical location for the laundry, and having the bedroom be able to be out here, with doors directly from the bedroom onto the deck.
And they can still access the bathroom through, you know, the kind of hallway you have, so.
No, I absolutely agree, but trying to get that wall, you know, trying to get that wall out of there was a challenge.
And there isn't a better way to do the stairs either, because looking from Florence Avenue, the stairs look odd down the way they do.
Yeah, that's not, we actually were lobbying for them to, for the entry addition to be new stairs up to the second floor unit,
Mhm.
but we couldn't quite get that to fly either. I don't think we're going to, you know, see any, way on changing this. I mean, there's not a lot that can be done if you're gonna come up in Florence, because there's just such a steep change in grade. So of course, most of the time, they're coming around from Bellevue, they park their cars by the garages on Bellevue, and they walk the plant, and it's, you know, it steps up, but it's much less, more.
I think that I add the only couple of comments I will make, in addition to what has been discussed, is overall it's okay. The proposal, but two things that I will add to the windows in the closet laundry, or just reverse it and enjoy the view or the light. The entry to the main house,
Access that deck.
you know, is rather small and compressed. Instead of the entry to the main house on the main elevation,
Yeah.
it's a small hallway for two entrances. So if you enlarge it a little bit, and you still keep the alternative, the proposed alternative, you may, you may gain some space that is needed. And will help you a little bit on the,
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
yeah, let me show you, it's easier. It's like, just making the entryway a little bit bigger, right? So maybe you want to keep the same stoop or whatever it is, but if you do this, then this becomes a little bit less of posing.
Yeah.
But that's, that's minor.
Yeah.
I'm just saying all the comments are minor. And
Again,
this-
believe it or not, that edge was because of the existing window, so that there,
This
so
one,
that
which
they,
one?
that the edge, the edge that you're trying to move back to make the stoop larger is because that's where the existing brick ends. So that way, around the existing front door is all the existing brick without having to patch or.
It seems like a little bit extremely small for two entrances. But, and the second thing, I think this wants to be like this, like reverse the, instead of going that way and having like a,
Yeah, I think so. Just looking at this.
that's strange in a way. But if you reverse it, it solves the issue. And just convince the guy to.
And I think, the idea of coming down into the yard as opposed to coming down towards the rear is.
It's the yard, no?
What's that?
It is the yard. And besides, you free some yard and make it more appealing to, more in character with the house. That's minor.
You're talking about turning stair?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the other.
maybe you.
No, the other reason that it's laid out the way it is bring the stair over to that corner so that when it comes down and out into the side yard, it's not in front of any of the first floor windows. So.
That I see, because you have a window on the right.
Right.
Wait, you have, you have
If you
this,
look at that elevation,
you have here, situation here.
No, you're not gonna fix that. You're not gonna fix this window.
No windows at all. On the opposite, these little spindles or columns that you have, it will look much in proportion.
Yeah, I mean,
That's the way that
this is, it does this. Here's your line.
Right.
I don't think,
clear.
you're not in front of them.
oh, we can look at that certainly.
Get a couple steps out of the landing and maybe even.
Right, step down into the landing.
I think this is kind of. Not the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Overall,
none of them were, but I think they, there's some balance here that could be struck between some improvements and one, two, three, four.
so this is a recommendation to the firm.
Well, you're not acting on it tonight, no matter what.
It's just a referral. Okay, so no action to be taken.
It's just, it's a referral to the planning board, so.
You have plans?
This is not a referral. The planning board suggested that they didn't have too many problems with it, so you might as well come here at the same time.
Okay.
So if you were, so inclined, you could, make a motion tonight, but I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I don't think we are. I think we,
But
so,
if you'd like to make comments to the planning board, you can do that also.
No, I didn't understand that was even an option, I thought that this was
Yeah,
get things
any
started.
approval tonight would be conditional on the planning board approval, but
Of course.
it could be voted on.
Okay.
So regarding the planning issues, I think it's just the side stair from the second floor to the side yard. I think all the other issues are, opening types and material questions, so I don't know that those aren't as relevant to the,
Right.
just really the stair.
Okay.
So no action to be taken.
We'll see you in June. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for waiting. No show for Clinton, but
Shocking.
since you are here, if you'd like to,
I would like to, because
yeah, because you came and you waited, if you, go ahead and we'll take into, obviously you're welcome to come again next time, but if you don't, we will take into consideration what you have to say tonight,
thank you.
whether you show up.
My name is Jacqueline Vecchio, and I live at 35 Jefferson Avenue. I don't know where to begin, but I'm going to try and be concise. I'm not surprised that Masters didn't show, because they think that they are above any type of getting a permit or anything that goes on in the village. This has been, I don't know how long you guys have lived in the village, but I've lived here since 1970. And I have seen a lot of things just slip under the carpet. I called recently about, I don't even know what they're going to do with these sheds. I saw a shed, my property adjacent, Masters, home plate, the baseball field. This is something from the planning board that was signed in 1998, when they were supposed to comply with certain things about putting in the baseball field. I'm not sure what these sheds are about, but I do know from a reliable source at Masters that they were talking about putting the sheds in to exterminate suitcases from the young adults, I guess, who arrived from foreign countries to exterminate the bed bugs. They were going to put propane tanks. That's what I heard. They put up sheds without permits, and Mr. Maley knows about that, because I called and reported it, that we never got any notice. Just let me look at my notes, because, and time is a very precious commodity for me, as it is for you guys. I don't know whether you get paid for this, I assume you're volunteers, and I appreciate you letting me speak, because I don't feel like coming back here again, but yet, if the village approves things and Masters never complies, it's like wimpy. Give me a hamburger today and I'll pay you tomorrow. They were supposed to put trees along the burn. They've recently cut trees down last week, right adjacent to my property. Are they going to build? Put more trees? When they built that gym, they were supposed to put trees all along the way. I can't tell you, what happens is people change hands at Masters. One hand never knows what the other hand is doing. I have met with the headmistress's secretary. I've met with the new guy who's supposedly in charge of landscaping. They keep on telling me, wait for the planting season. The planting season comes and goes. They never put any trees up. I gave them pictures of adults sitting on the burn last week, and I called Masters and told them, what I'm going to tell you, you may be shocked at. First of all, Masters is, look, I was a teacher for many years, so I don't have anything against students or children or anything like that. However, Masters is a for-profit organization. It's not a non-for-profit. They are renting out the fields adjacent to my house to a male baseball team. I have seen public urination going on. I've called the police on it. That you guys just can't rubber stamp them and say, yes, you can put up the sheds. in my opinion, you have to say, you must comply with what was in this from 1998. I'm very, very frustrated about it. I pay a lot of taxes. I don't have river views. I have views of people urinating because they haven't complied. I spoke to Darius, who is the village attorney at one time. You could see porta potties. Darius told them, put evergreens around them. Did they do it? No, they never do it. And all they want to do is build, put stuff up, and they never comply with anything the
Yeah,
village asks them to
you're bringing
do.
up a really valid point, which is that we don't have any enforcement powers on this board. The building inspection department does. But another issue that you bring up, which is interesting and I think pertinent, which is that there's very little in the way of repercussions for violating what are, approvals processes and that sort of thing. I mean, I do understand, I do know that there's a fee structure for things that occur, sort of legalization, but really there isn't much in the way of fines, as there are in some towns. And it's really kind of out of our hands at this board. Ultimately, what we look at is the relative appropriateness of a new structure that's within the rights of the owner of the property to build. And so if the master school comes, this becomes if they show up and they really want to do this and they have a reasonable shed, we're not in a position to deny that because they're renting the field and doing something, and the people who are renting the field are doing things they shouldn't be doing, which I sympathize with, and that must be very frustrating for you. Again, the same with the landscape. We don't get a chance to enforce these things that people promise they can do. Well, I'm gonna build this wall, but I'm gonna put some nice greenery up and you're never gonna see it, and then the wall goes up and then nobody bothers to do the other part of it. So I understand your frustration, but I don't know that there's anything at this board that we can do within our powers to
If there's some measures in a site plan that haven't been complied with on a project that hasn't been closed out, we have the power to enforce that. If previous building inspectors have closed permits without enforcing the site plan, it's kind of, barn door is closed.
And I also understand.
So
that
if you have a
they
document-
wanted to bypass this board, because the first letter that I got said planning board, and I guess when you were out,
No, that was a mistake.
That was a
Somehow
mistake.
they made a mistake. He showed up at the planning board. I said, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be at the Ahrb. So I made him renotice and sent him to this board.
okay.
So this is the appropriate board for a shed.
Can I ask you who you're dealing with? Because I've spoken to Ed Biddle, I've spoken to the man who
The
took.
guy with the shaved head that takes care of maintenance, what's his name?
I have no idea. But if you could please check into that for me, and I'll be
Check
glad
into what?
to check in what they're going to do. They didn't show up here tonight, so what's going to happen?
This will be continued to 2 weeks from now.
I guess what you're asking is, what do they say they're gonna use the sheds for?
Yeah, did they tell you what they're gonna use the sheds
Storage.
for? Storage.
There's no, I asked them about propane tanks and things like that. There's no intention of any of that. And if there is, it'll be a violation because propane tanks require a separate permit, and any sort of fumigation or something like that would require another permit. It's not gonna be allowed. So I think that might just be a rumor.
Well, what can we do about enforcing?
Like I said, if you have a copy of a resolution that has site plan requirements that haven't been met on a project that isn't closed out, As far as I know, every addition they've done under me has been closed out and complied with. But if you have something from 98 and that permit wasn't closed, then they have a lot of open permits, then I could get that done.
You can get, okay, I will get it to you.
Okay?
I will get it to you. Thank you for listening. I don't know whether or not I'm gonna come here. Maybe I'll just come out of curiosity to see who's here, but I'm not sitting and wasting my time or your time. And I thank you for listening to me tonight. They just, as I said before, they think they can do whatever they want without getting permits. And it's not fair because homeowners have to get permits. Thank you for listening. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Motion to continue 49 Clinton to the next